All right. What's up, guys? Ed Stapleton here from ClickSeek. I am here with my man, Reggie. Reggie is the director of sales for our direct-to-retail agency. Reggie, say hello.
Hey, how you guys doing? Thanks,
All right.
thanks for having me, Ed.
Absolutely, man. So the reason I want to do this today is Reggie handles all of our outbound and inbound follow-up and helps me close all the deals for the agency. So the main purpose of today is to talk about cold calling. It is one of Reggie's specialties, and I want to share what's inside Reggie's brain in terms of cold calling.
Yes, sir.
How long have you been cold calling?
I've been cold calling for about 4 to 5 years.
Got it. Okay. So an agency or a consultant or whoever that's brand new to cold calling, how many calls should they be making per day?
So you want someone that can make at least 100 calls a day. It depends on if they have a power dialer, or if they're just dialing from their cell phone.
What's a power dialer?
So a power dialer is
That's okay.
All right, but because what is a power dialer other than?
So I got it. I got it. And you know what? I'm not editing this. Just kidding. I'm good. So a power dialer is it's a piece of software that you upload a list, and that list basically starts dialing the number. Once that call completes, it just automatically calls the next one. So you're not picking up the phone, putting down the phone back and forth.
Exactly.
The voicemail, so that once you hit the voicemail, you can drop a voicemail and move right on to the next. So what that does is, if it took you 6 hours to make 100 phone calls, you can make 100 phone calls in 3 hours or 4 hours or 2 hours.
Exactly.
So power dollars are a big piece of our puzzle and why we're successful on the cold calling front.
Most definitely.
So you're thinking 100 calls minimum is what we should be targeting, right?
Yeah, I would say 100 calls minimum. If they're only doing cold calling and not doing anything else, definitely at least 100 calls. And you want to have it in time blocks. So you want to make sure that if your golden hours are between the hours of 11 and 2, that's when they're making their calls.
Got it. When we say golden hours, what do you mean by that?
The golden hours are the hours where your customer is more likely to answer the phone, or where they're more active. So if you're calling a dentist, the golden hours may be different, versus if you're calling a plumber.
Got it. Yep. Got it. Okay. And out of those 100 people, how many do you anticipate that you'd actually make contact with? And then out of those, how many do you actually anticipate that you'd actually turn into a booked appointment?
Okay. So in times like this, out of 100.
Don't forget the pandemic. Talk like normal times, just so.
Okay. Normal time. Okay. All right. Okay. So for me, if we're talking specific, because it's based on the niche, right?
Yep.
So if we're talking about real estate agents, if I call 100, maybe 25 to 30, will answer and actually have an engaging conversation.
Yep.
And maybe 5 to 7 of those would be likely to have an appointment. But those 5 to 7, them having an appointment or not is based on my conversation with them and how tight the script is. Because a lot of times you have the opportunity to book the appointment, but if you say the wrong thing at the right time, there's no way you're going to book that appointment.
Right. Okay. So prior to all of the pandemic stuff going on, you were booking anywhere from 2 appointments a day. And then what was the highest you hit? What was the record?
Highest appointments I booked in a day, I think, was like 13 or something like that.
Some ridiculous number.
Right.
It was a mixture of previous missed appointments and new appointments. So that was a total of 13. Let's go with total new appointments. What's the total number of
total new? Probably 7 or 8.
Okay. So wrap your head around that for a second. How many calls do you think it took you to get to those 7 or 8 appointments? We're talking hundreds. Like, do you have any?
Right. Yeah. 3, like one day, I think the day I booked 7 or 8 appointments, I'm talking, it was like 250 or 300 calls. I believe around 250 to 300 calls.
Got it.
Maybe more.
Right. Yeah. You're a very goal oriented person. So
thank you.
When we talked goals, we were talking, I think maybe you would hit 6 one day. And I said, I bet you can't beat that. You hit 7, bet you can't beat that. And you We just keep going on to the point of diminishing returns and you hit those numbers. Um, so cold calling is how we're building one of our businesses.
Right.
Cold calling, cold emails, how we book the bulk of our business. What's a common? Well, let me back up. Script versus no script. What are your thoughts? Do you prefer to have a script, or? And I know my answer on this, and you definitely know I know my answer.
Most certainly.
Do you prefer to have a script, or do you prefer to wing it?
I prefer to have a script. I prefer to have a script. When I first started out, I preferred to wing it because I wanted to sound as fluent and as comfortable as possible on the phone.
Yep.
But what I would soon learn is that having a quality script, and if I learn that script well enough, it can sound just as fluent, and I can sound just as comfortable and confident on the call. But right now, definitely script all the way.
Yep. Yep. I agree. And the best analogy I've heard is, I want to say it was Grant Cardone. It may have been Scott Channel. I can't remember exactly who it was that I heard this from, but it was basically, Braveheart, The Godfather, Scarface, and I'll pick another movie, Joker. All the actors that mastered scripts. They learned scripts. They didn't just wing that stuff. That was impromptu. That was them dialing in best practices, best written word from a masterful writer that wrote that script, and they just acted it and they internalized it and became masterful at putting that out there. So once that kind of clicked for me and realized that winging it and not having a dialed in process was just a disaster, I went back towards the script. And it really is true, having a script makes things way more repeatable, way easier. And things start to become, what's the word? You can start seeing the future of where a conversation is going based on
certainly. And is studying the script, learning the script, and then it's studying other people who are really good at reading the script and sounding confident in the script for their business, and kind of using some of their analogies. You taught me some analogies and some stuff that is not in the script, but it aligns with the script. So I may use an analogy that's not on the paper, but it sounds fluent, and it sounds like I'm supposed to be saying it in the script. So
people think in terms of pictures. They think in terms of mental pictures. So now definitely help people grasp ideas a lot better. I'm a big believer in analogies. It makes things easier for people to grasp. So from a cold calling perspective, it's a very big source of fear for a lot of people, picking up the phone and calling a stranger that they've never spoken to sell SEO, to sell PPC, Google Ads, web design, marketing services in general. Did you ever have a fear of picking up the phone to talk to people? And if you did, how did you get through that? Was it just brute force, or were there techniques you deployed? Give me a little bit of background on that.
Well, yeah, I would get nervous because in the beginning stages, I'm a little young, so in the beginning when I first
you look like you're 45. How old are you?
Well, yeah, I'm actually 65, so I'm joking, but I'm 25, and when I first started, I would take a lot of the rebuttals personal. And Ed, you've heard some of like the calls, and I mean, you can attest. Like I'm not fazed by a few curse words or anything like that now. But in the beginning, I would take everything personal, and I wouldn't say anything negative back to them, but I would allow it to carry into the next call. But now I'm at a point.
When you say carrying it to the next call, what do you mean?
So when I'm in a conversation and I have someone say literally, you're terrible. You're a terrible salesperson. Never call me again, buddy. I've had someone say that, and when I first started, and I'll go into the next call with like this kind of
that baggage,
with a chip on my shoulder, just like now I'm looking to prove that I'm not a terrible salesperson. I probably was, but I was just starting out, and I wasn't able to remove it and shake that comment as quickly as I am now. Now they can say anything. I'll laugh it off before I get mad, because at the end of the day, I know this person doesn't know me personally.
Hmm.
So there's no way that they could be saying something that is directly related to who I am as a person.
Right.
Uh, so I just kind of let it go, move on to the next call, just shake it off and keep moving on. Don't take it
Yep.
personal.
So macro level cold calling is a few things you got to keep in mind. Um, at any given time, only like 3% of a market is buying anything.
For sure. Yeah.
People, 100 people, only 3% are looking for a car. 100 people, 3% or three are looking to buy a new website. Anything is typically 3%. So if you're calling 100 people, roughly only three of those people are going to be ready to buy something. Maybe 10 to 15% would be moderately interested enough to have another conversation about. So
Right.
that's really all you're looking for is those 3 to 15 people to book that appointment with. So it's a very small set of people that will even entertain a phone call. So you've got to keep calling and calling to get to that core of people. So part of it is it's a numbers game, but a bigger piece is you've got to have a tight script that really punches through and makes you different in the market.
Yep.
And the last piece is objection handling. How to know the objection. Every objection you think in your mind. Well, let's put it this way: there are no new objections. There's only really like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 objections that you're going to hear. So what you do is list out what those are going to be, and then have an answer for them. Internalize that answer really well, just like you do, and then just keep pushing through. So the first one is typically what's the acronym for it?
RBO.
Right, and what's that mean?
Rejections and brush offs.
Yep. So in a conversation, you're cold calling. You give the opening, 5-second, pitch. Someone will say not interested. What do you typically do at that point? How do you get around that? Most people would just hang up and say, "Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate your time today." How do you get past that point and get to that next level in the conversation?
Well, first off, my mentality, especially if a salesperson is commissioned, you have to realize that if you just let them off the hook, you might be cutting into your check.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So you have to have that mentality. Like, you have to, if they just reject right off the back, you have to have the ability to deflect that. My favorite thing to do is if they hang up, is call back.
Right.
I assume positive intent all
Yep.
day long. I don't take it personal. They hang
Yep.
up, I'm calling them back. Hey, we missed. I don't know if there's like a bad line or
Yep.
we got disconnected. This is Reggie Prevail, et cetera, et cetera. I go
Yep.
into,
Yep.
and sometimes those guys will be booked appointments. Sometimes they'll hang up again. If they hang
Yep.
up again, then of course I just move on. I'm not going to
Yep.
continue to waste my time on it.
Right.
If I get someone that said, "Oh, you're going to ask me something?"
Yeah, just one thing. Jared Glant from Cardone's company, um, he had a wonderful line that I've always enjoyed. It's someone says they're not interested. You basically take that as that's your fault, and it says, why would you be interested? You don't even know anything about me. That's my fault, and that matters to me. And I'm here to if you give me 10 seconds, I'll tell you a little bit about what we do. And if you're not interested, I'll hang up on myself. Like taking that attitude of like, of course.
Yeah.
It's my fault. I haven't told you. You don't know about me in my market. That's my fault. That's not your fault. Type of a mentality.
And I like that. I like that a lot. I don't use that as often. I need to add that to my arsenal though.
The first brush off or first rejection is literally just a speed bump in the conversation.
Sure.
With the car driving analogy, most people take that as a full stop sign and hang up and turn off the car and get out. When reality, you just drive right over that shit and keep going. And you acknowledge it and you just keep going on. You're I'm busy, can't talk right now. Totally get it. I understand you're busy right now.
Exactly.
Just boom, move on and forward in the conversation. So what's like in a typical day, what are like the top 2 or 3 objections you're hearing?
And you just named them. I'm not available right now. I'm busy, or I have like if I'm calling someone about PPC or SEO services, or I have a guy that's been doing it for me for 3 years, and I could easily say, okay, well, hey, you enjoy the rest of your day, but them having someone do it for them doesn't tell me that their results are better than ours. So it's my goal to figure out, how can I help you? If I can't help you, by all means, I'll let you go. But if there's an opportunity for me to help you, let's explore it for 2 to 3 minutes. So if they say they've been working with someone for the last 5 years, I get into the specifics of their conversion rates possibly, or how are they liking that relationship? What I've learned is a lot of times people, as a brush off, they say, well, I have someone doing that. But when you ask them how it's going, or what is that relationship like, they aren't comfortable. They aren't happy with the results. And they're actually looking for someone to help them and to kind of phase them out of that relationship. So it's just a matter of not taking that brush off literal and just looking
Yep.
at it as a reflective thing. It's automatic. It's
Yep.
like you walk into a store and you say, hey, I'm just looking. But
Meanwhile,
you're
you're
not
in the store. You're there to buy something. You just don't want to talk to this Jamoli that wants to sell you something.
exactly.
Yep. But you do clearly need help. So yeah, it's a powerful one, and no one really thinks about it until you'll be like, oh yeah, I do that every time I go into a store.
Right.
You walk onto a car lot. I'm just looking. No shit, you're looking. You're on a car lot. No one goes. That's what they wanted to do on a Sunday. You're there to get a car.
Right. Most definitely.
Yep.
Most definitely. And one thing you mentioned about rejections, and if someone says they're not interested, I always ask them, if I haven't had the opportunity to tell you what I'm offering, I always ask, what is it that you aren't interested in, or what aren't you interested in? I say it really quick, just I agree with them, like you said. Like, I try not to say I understand after reading Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb that Ed recommended to me. I don't say I understand. It's definitely like a reflex response for a lot of salespeople. But I try to agree with them in some kind of way, and then ask them what aren't they interested in specifically. Like, you can't just tell me that you're not interested. Because again, my mentality is you may be a customer. Right. And just because you want to hurry up, get out and get me off the phone because it's just natural to do that, I have to, I have to dig a little bit deeper to interrupt you. And that's a word that Jeb used all the time, interrupting. You're interrupting their day, but it's
shock
a part
the system. Exactly. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. You 2 points here you hit on. Remind me on the send me something / I'm not interested piece. I'll go back to that question, but to speak to interruption, if your market hasn't penetrated your market, your advertising and your marketing hasn't penetrated your market enough for them to know who you are and you to bring them in, you've got to do outbound so you get attention, and you have a certain window in there. You've got to explain who you are and what you do and what your value proposition is in order to warrant the phone call. You got to keep in mind that it's not just marketing companies reaching out to these folks. It's the color toner printer sales rep. It's the garbage disposal rep. It's the food service rep. It's the life insurance rep. They're getting outbounded by dozens, if not hundreds, of people. Reggie, I think I may have lost you.